Hi everyone, this episode of How Did I Get Here discusses mental health issues and suicide. If you or someone you know is in need of support, call Lifeline on 131 114 or Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800. Yes, welcome back to How Did I Get Here? This is the show where we ask the question, how did you get here? Now, if you've seen any blue trees out in the wild, Kendall Whyte is the genius behind them to spark conversations surrounding mental health. She's the founder and CEO of the Blue Tree Project, and last year became the WA recipient of WA Young Australian of the Year. She joins us in How Did I Get Here? Kendall, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
How's your day been so far?
Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you for the intro.
Oh, no worries. Well, look, let's start right at the beginning. So you grew up in the country town of Muckenbuden.
Good try.
Oh,
close. No. Muckenbuden.
I even phonetically wrote it out too. I was so close. Okay, I'm glad you corrected me. So what was it like growing up there?
So Muckenbuden is in the central wheat belt in WA, very small town. I think there's all of 800 people sort of living there now. But growing up in the country is very special for so many different reasons. Like there's something about the wide open spaces and growing up on a farm, like having that freedom, I think was really unique in a way, and very fortunate to have that upbringing. Country town, very close knit, and once again, I think that builds friendships for life. Like I'm friends with so many people still that I grew up with, no matter how long it's been, which is super special. And sport is like the soul of regional communities. So like grew up playing lots of sport. So yeah, they're the first couple of things that come to mind when sort of talking about Muckenbuden. But there is only one school there, the District High, and I only went there until year 7 and then actually moved to Perth and went to boarding school, which was like the complete opposite experience growing up. Absolutely.
Well, what was like school life like both before you moved to boarding school and while you were there? Like what kind of student were you?
Oh, look, I think growing up in Mucka, we call it Mucka for short.
Yep.
I'm just going to say Mucka from now. I think school life, I mean, catching the bus as a student, like everyone would be picked up from their farms, and so there was like this great camaraderie almost on the buses, and then going to school, like small classes once again, really close with teachers as well. Like you see them out in the streets, like everyone knows everyone there. I was a good, I feel like I was a good student.
We all like to think we are.
We all like to think that. But I once received the Citizenship Award, so I feel like I was like a nice kind of person, like a nice friend.
Oh, that's great.
Always like looking after or looking out for people from a young age. So, yeah, that's kind of primary school days. And, yeah, moving to an all-girls private boarding school after growing up and going to Mucka was just like polar opposites. I remember thinking like the first day I got there, we were like walking around the schoolyard, sort of wondering what everyone does during recess and lunch, and everyone was just like sitting down on the lawn, like doing nothing in their like neat little uniforms, and I was like, why is no one like playing sport or doing anything? I was like, how boring. So I remember like just drastic changes, and obviously in the boarding house, like all of a sudden you've got 130 sisters basically living under the same roof, and leaving home at like 11, 12 years old also is like a huge thing that, I mean, you think about at that age to a certain degree, but you're more worried about leaving your childhood friends and like going to a new scary world. But I think there were so many wonderful opportunities that I was able to sort of immerse myself in, going to a school like I did, and really being given those opportunities to kind of take hold of what is it that I'm interested in? What is it that I want to do? And really find yourself, I guess, in a sense. And you get to do that alongside so many other individuals at school, and creating new friendships and groups who, once again, still super close with, and catching up with them now 13 years out of high school. So yeah, like lifelong friendship groups and so many unique opportunities. Obviously, like everything, like not everything's peachy and easy. And there's always challenges of moving away from home at such a young age. And I guess some people deal with it a little better than others. Sometimes I felt like I was having like so much fun enjoying everyone's company and enjoying all these new opportunities that I didn't get too homesick. But there were definitely times where all you want to do is like be able to go home or like sleep in your own bed, or just have your family and close, like giving your mum a hug after school type thing. Like you don't get to do that. So certainly a lot of challenges that come with that kind of school life. Yeah,
no, for sure. And as well, like, you know, did you have a favourite or least favourite subject at school?
Favourite subject was human biology. Least favourite was definitely chemistry. I was so terrible. My chemistry teacher literally said that I was like creating a whole voodoo science or voodoo chemistry because I was that bad. Like nothing ever made sense. So that was definitely my weakest subject. But also really enjoyed doing textiles and sort of design. So I did that as one of my TE subjects. I remember being told like do like subjects that you enjoy because you will always do well at them. Like, and I think a lot of the time we always get tied up with what level things are and like scaling, and at the end of the day it's you always do well at the things that you enjoy. So I tried to and do that.
Did you manage to like get a bit of sport in there and like your school life too? Like did you get involved with that at all?
Yes. Yeah. I think there was something particularly about all the boarding school students because once again, just like sporting has just been the soul of our community. So we've all come together and we did all the sports, like everything that we could, would jam it all in. Like, we're talking like rowing, basketball, tennis, hockey, netball, like all of it, softball, just and dance. So I was very sporty, like growing up and all through school. It was kind of like a really great outlet as well. Something that definitely drops off once you leave that like very, very organised, regimented sort of routine in school. I go to the gym, but I think there's something about like that team sport and spirit that is special that you get to experience in school. So really encourage everyone to like get involved and do it.
I think especially like what you said, after you leave school and like getting to do it with other people and like keeping each other accountable that way is just like a really good way to like keep it going. So I feel that. So after you left school, you later went on to do a Bachelor of Science at UWA. And one of the last jobs that you had before the Blue Tree Project was as a news editor. At 7. Like, tell us more about these ventures. Like, did you see yourself involved? Well, I mean, obviously you said you loved biology. And
so I've then gone on and sort of taken myself into that area. So I studied anatomy with a major anatomy and archaeology. So I had this sort of idea of being a forensic scientist. And it was very cool in some ways. But then as life does, you kind of get pulled in different directions. So it was quite challenging coming out of uni. Like everyone expects you to have X amount of years of experience and you're all going for the same jobs. And I just remember having group interviews and then follow-up interviews and trial days. And it was just a really tough job market at that point in time where I was looking for work after I had graduated and I was like, God, this is not fun. Adulting is not fun. And then an opportunity came up through a family friend actually to do some work experience at 7 West Media. And so that was for what's known as like the transfers role. So basically you're responsible for all the footage that comes in for news stories, for from other news stations or satellites, like just hosts in different countries. So you were kind of like the center of where all that came in and out. And it was like nothing that I'd ever studied for or even could prepare for. But I kind of thrived in that environment, and naturally I think you get to know the landscape within that role, and then you can sort of divert into a different role, which is what I then did, and moved into the video editing side of things and became a news editor there. So it's just really interesting how diverse a career can be, and I think that's what can be quite difficult, is when you're first coming out of school, you've got this plan, you think that's the pathway that you're going to take, but to really be able to embrace like extreme different opportunities, like that's an opportunity I never thought I would like put myself in, and it turned out to be such a fantastic role, incredible people, and then from that I've learned so much that I have now been able to apply in Blue Tree Project as well. So there was a bit of a time where at the end at Seven West Media, I sort of knew that I'd got to a point where I think I was wanting to try something different, or thought this wasn't really the direction I was maybe wanting to go, so now I'm going to try and redirect. And so I went back and did some study. I enrolled to do my MBA, and I only got 1 year through before I pretty much put a stop to it, because the project had begun and was demanding a lot of my time. And so I sort of had to make the plunge, really, because I couldn't work full time, I couldn't study, and I couldn't start Blue Tree Project or give it the time that it was sort of demanding at that point in time. So, really had to sort of reevaluate, and I thought I might not put any more on the Hexter if I can if I can help it.
That's fair enough, because we've spoken a lot about Hexets and stuff, and I think finding like the pathway that you're passionate about and learning to balance, what's meaningful and to you is also so important. So you've mentioned the project already. So for those who don't know, tell us about the Blue Tree Project.
So Blue Tree Project is a WA-based charity that I founded in 2019, and the project has come out of tragedy. I lost my brother Jayden to suicide in 2018. So Jayden was 29 when he took his own life, and the project kind of began after the story that was shared at his funeral, and it was that of Jayden painting a blue tree on our family farm in Muckenbooden as a practical joke. So he painted the original blue tree in 2014, so many years before we lost him, and he actually painted it with a very special friend of his. They snuck out, they actually found a tin of paint randomly in our sheds, like our work sheds, and were wondering sort of what they could do with it. They didn't want to throw it out. And then they had this idea of painting this tree on our farm, and it's actually at our metal dump. So it's like a place where we dump all the old truck shells and parts and bits and pieces, and it's on a granite rock, and they used to have like rock pools, and we would go and catch tadpoles and spend a lot of time at this place. So it's like a super special place to me. And so this story was shared at Jayden's funeral, as I mentioned. But what it did is it inspired others to then go and paint a tree as a bit of a tribute and as a conversation starter within the friendship group, because they didn't see it coming, or we didn't see it coming at all with Jayden. And so what happened is one of his best mates then went and painted the next blue tree and shared it on Facebook. And I think it took him like 2 days and like 40 litres of paint. It was 45 degrees just before Christmas, and he shared a photo of the finished tree on Facebook, and it was from there that it kind of went viral, his post. And before we knew it, we had people sharing photos in the comment section of the post of blue trees that they had painted. And I think we just saw how quickly it resonated with people, or that online community particularly, and just thought, wow, maybe there's something that we can do from this. We've seen this impact happen so quickly. There's something about this visual symbol. And so it was still very early after losing Jayden, but kind of created an Instagram page to showcase the few trees that had been shared with us. And yeah, like it's just been unreal to see it grow since that day, since the start of 2019, and a real grassroots movement that I have now turned into a charity. And I can sort of feel like I can comfortably say that we've had quite an impact now across Australia and other parts of the world. So yeah, could never have imagined that it would have been like this, and it's been like quite a bittersweet like journey and experience, but it is a very special legacy to be able to remember my brother by, I think. Yeah.
No, I was like so sorry, and thank you for sharing the story of the Blue Tree Project and Jayden with us as well. And you have made some really amazing, incredible achievements as well. So only last week I was on your website and it said that your website had 995 blue trees registered at the time. And then as of today, 18th of July, 2023, you've now raised 1,006 trees.
Yeah.
Like registered 1,006 trees, which is incredible. Like congratulations. Like, it's an amazing achievement. Did you ever expect the Blue Tree Project to be as big as it did now?
No. And I've kind of like with the 1,000th milestone that has just happened, I've tried to kind of take a bit of time to reflect on it. Because I think in the past I've had conflicting feelings about celebrating certain things within the project, obviously because it is born out of tragedy, and there is that element to it that it feels like an interesting thing to celebrate sometimes. Yeah. But no, I've taken the time to reflect and thought that it is a pretty special experience to have a legacy like this to remember Jayden by, because so many people lose loved ones to suicide and maybe don't get that same kind of support or sort of follow-up from their community. So I think Blue Tree Project really offers that, and I just could never have imagined that we would have, we've had 1,000 registered trees. The truck drivers tell us there's way more out there, which is quite hilarious. But I like to reflect on the number of conversations, or hundreds of thousands of conversations that have happened because of those blue trees that are really dotted around Australia and other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say that as well, because I was checking out the list of blue trees you had on the website, and it's not just blue trees in Australia. No. There's blue trees in Indonesia, New Zealand, Germany, the UK, Africa, Argentina, Canada, and in the USA. And I'm sure that's just the beginning as well. What does it mean to see the impact of the Blue Tree Project internationally?
Yeah, I think I have to say that's the power of social media, and whether you love it or hate it, I have to say it's been really beneficial for us to share our cause and message. And yeah, for it to be international, gone global on every continent except for Antarctica, but we're working on that. Yeah, it's really unreal. It's nice to know that we're kind of reaching all parts of the world. Yeah.
For people who are probably wondering as well, what are some ways they can get involved with the Blue Tree Project? And something I also wanted to ask you as well is, because I know there's obviously some rules to painting a blue tree and things like that, which I really loved in terms of it being environmentally friendly and things like that too. And, what are some other ways, if you can't paint a blue tree, what are ways you can get involved?
Yeah, we've seen people get really creative in so we encourage people to only paint deceased trees, giving it a blue lease on life, as we say, and being mindful that there's no wildlife or anything living within that tree. Being conscious of the paint that you're using, and if you don't have a tree, there are so many ways that we've seen people, whether yarn bombing a living tree or wrapping it in fabric. We've seen sculptures being created. We've seen branches transplanted into pots, murals as well, and artworks that can be utilised. So there's so many different sort of ways that you can make it work for your particular environment. I think that's what's so special and unique about Blue Tree Project, is that we have this visual symbol, this tangible sort of object, and people can make it work in their environment, whether that's a mine site, a kindergarten, a retirement home, a university. We've seen it used in so many different settings, and each blue tree sort of has its own meaning, but what it is doing is it's permanent, and it's acting as that visual reminder for people when they do walk past to self-reflect on our own mental health, but also maybe thinking about loved ones or a mate that's been going through a rough time, and just sort of I hope that people sort of stop and pause just for a moment when they see a tree, and do just think about how they are tracking. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you about the Australian of the Year awards. Firstly, tell us about when you found out you've been put forward for a nomination.
Gosh, I can't really remember. You know, it's like one of those moments where you're told and you're like, wait, is this real? That's unreal. I don't know who nominated me.
Oh, so it's still a mystery then.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something that I am allowed to know. Anyway, very special to be put forward for such an award, and to, just be among so many incredible people. Like the experience, I really wanted to make the most of it and really utilize that platform as best as I could, because I thought, like, you're in front of like a whole great number of people who are doing incredible things, but also like the media potential and exposure to really get the cause and message out there and help it grow. I really wanted to take advantage of that, and I think like it has definitely helped us grow and just take us to that more sort of national level. Like we've always had trees over east, but particularly the first half of this year, majority of the trees that are being painted are definitely on the east coast now. But 60% are still here in WA because it was born and bred here. And I think because of COVID, us like being locked away here, like it really just like fueled within the state. So plenty coming in from over east, and really wanted to make the most of that whilst we were over there, because the awards, the finals are in Canberra. And I was fortunate enough to go and fly over at the time. Thanks. The borders were actually open. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go, even if I can't get back in. Like, this is kind of like a once in a lifetime experience. I'm just going to make it work and be a WA refugee if I have to. And just like seeing Grace Tame and Dylan Alcott and just people that I've read their books and admired them from afar, and then to be in the same room with them was just, a really special moment. But also the other finalists that I was alongside, our little cohort, were really close, and it was nice to be able to get to know them a little better and form that relationship as well.
And when you found out that you became a nominee for WA, what was the process like for you? Was there anything that you had to do to like prepare or to like get involved, or was it, what was that process like?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be prepared. I guess you don't know what's going to happen. Like, win or lose, it's an incredible opportunity. But if you do win, like, wow, your whole world will change. And I kind of was like, I kind of need to prepare for that if that is the best case scenario. So like I made sure like all the website was up to date. I had like information booklets and flyers and ways that people can help and get involved, just so I had it on hand, because it was just me running the project, wearing all the hats. And so I was very conscious of that, and just making sure I was prepared enough to go over and rep WA as best as I could.
And when you found out you were the recipient of WA's Young Australian of the Year, where were you? Who were you with? Like, do you remember that?
So there's actually a finalist dinner. So
Okay.
we all got to go to, oh gosh, I can't remember the hotel. Anyway, we had a great dinner. All the finalists were there, got to meet the others alongside me. And yeah, it was kind of like I was at the very back of the room. I actually remember now. It's the very back of the room and they called out my name. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's quite a long walk from the back of the room. And get up on stage and they ask you all these questions and you respond and you've like done your pitch deck, like as many as, because like you've only got like these short moments where you really want to like sell it as best as you can in that moment to try and get the cause and mission out there as best as possible. So it was kind of like a world changing moment really, and yeah, super grateful.
And, you know, you talked about as well how you becoming a recipient has impacted the Blue Tree Project. Like, what has it also done for yourself as an individual?
Gosh, I mean, lots. And it's almost hard to pinpoint because so many opportunities have come out of it, I think, for Blue Tree Project, whether that's more key speaking opportunities, going along to events or getting corporate sponsors, just meeting lots of contacts generally. It impacts your life in so many different ways and it's kind of, hard to pinpoint exactly. I just know for a fact that having that platform, it puts more legitimacy, I guess, to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And therefore people sort of more likely to jump on board or, give you a bit more credit for the work that you've done to that point.
Yeah, what advice would you give to those who are thinking of nominating someone and putting someone forward for the Australian of the Year Awards?
So I think there are a lot of incredible everyday people doing amazing things within their community or work that's helping others. And I think sometimes you'll underestimate the impact that is being made. So I would just recommend putting any local hero or anyone that you think is doing incredible work, because chances are they've got a good chance, like a good shot at having an opportunity to really then launch their work or success to that next level.
Awesome. And we've got some reflection questions as well. Just the one actually. Hypothetical, we pose to all guests on the show.
Oh, okay.
What advice would you give 15-year-old Kendall?
Oh, I knew this was coming. Learn how to say no earlier. I think that's something I struggled with very early on, is I sort of felt this need to say yes to everything. And although it's very good to take up lots of opportunities, you also have to be very mindful of setting up those boundaries and not being worried of offending people because of that. And it's something that I've learned over the last couple of years and got a lot better at now, especially because I have to practice what I preach. And so setting up those boundaries, it's not me sort of negating people's help or whatever. It's me looking after myself, because I can only do my best if I'm looking after myself. And it's also how you can look after your loved ones and friends best as well, as if you're looking after yourself and making sure that you're in a good place. So yeah, I think that's what I would tell 15 years old Kendall.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice as well. And if people wanted to get involved with the Blue Tree Project, like where can we find the Blue Tree Project and where can we find you?
Yeah, so Blue Tree Project, you can support us in a couple of different ways and get involved, but we offer mental health first aid training courses and awareness sessions that I would really recommend so many people do. It gives you the skills to have those difficult conversations. So I really recommend doing that. You can also volunteer. We have events that you can either help volunteer at or come along. You can support us that way as well. Or just even following and sharing some of our content on socials. We're on all the platforms. And yeah, our website, bluetreeproject.com.au. It's all there, and including the long list of the 1,000 trees now.
No, I love looking at that list because I'm like, oh yeah, that's near me, or that's near me, or oh, I've seen that one, and it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to watching that list and that number grow even more. If you know someone doing amazing work like Kendall, go to australianoftheyear.org.au and nominate them for the 2024 awards before July 31st. Kendall, thank you so much for joining us. And as well, if you would like to stay up to date on all our content at Student Edge, you can follow us at student_edge on Instagram, Student Edge on TikTok, search us up on Student Edge on YouTube, head to studentedge.org for all our articles, podcasts, deals, competitions, career tips, education advice, and much, much more. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.